Hello, we're here at the new Diorama Theatre to speak to Mark Leipacher, the Artistic Director of the Faction Theatre Company. Thank you for coming to talk with us today.
You're welcome.
So when did you first become interested in directing and writing?
I've always been interested in theatre from a really, really young age. I think directing started, and writing actually. I was part of a youth theatre group, and we got to that point. There was a group of us that sort of got to that point where we were too old to be in the youth theatre shows, but too young to have any sort of larger roles in the adult shows. Yeah. And so there was this sort of middle group. And so what we started to do as a group was to write and produce our own plays. And I started directing and writing then, I think. So I must have been about 15, 16, something like that.
Started from a young age then?
Yes, yeah.
And it's kind of grown and progressed, and now you started up Faction.
Yes, yeah, so went through university and was writing and directing through there, and then trained as an actor originally at drama school.
Oh really, which drama school did you train?
At Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama. And then came over to London and started directing. Directing was the first thing I started doing over here, actually. And then a bit of acting, and then started up the Faction, and was still acting for a bit in Faction shows. But then gradually, more and more, the acting has sort of fallen by the wayside, and now I'm directing, keeps me occupied, so that's good. Yeah,
is that the route that you'd recommend people to go down the drama school route and come out through there?
To be a director.
To be a director or an actor? Well, I suppose for you being a director, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really, really useful to know what the actor's process is, and to really understand that. And so I know that when I was first starting out, there were some actors that were really, really pleased because I was talking to them as an actor. I think if you are going to be going on a course for to be a director, then certainly making sure there's an acting component to that, and a way of you understanding an actor's process is really, really useful, I think. But other than that, it's on the job. I mean, you learn so much from being on the job and from being in different situations, and how you handle those different situations, and how you manage a team, and how you manage the creative team, and how you manage different actors who all have different processes, you know. So you start to learn how to communicate with different actors who have different requirements and different processes, I think.
Yeah, well, I suppose it's kind of important. I mean, Faction is such a strong ensemble company, so I suppose that must really help your appreciation for their rehearsal techniques, and you get to learn different people and how to work with them. And what's it like working in an ensemble?
Oh, it's great. I wouldn't swap it for anything, really. I mean, you're absolutely right about how those different processes then come together. And what starts to happen is that there becomes a sort of scheme of work that the ensemble operates on, which hopefully doesn't sort of override anybody's individual process, but there is this sort of collective process as well that everybody goes through. And you do start to get this collective process going, so that hopefully what happens is that you get higher quality work, and you can, to a certain extent, get there quicker. And that's really the joy of what being in an ensemble is about, and particularly when you're doing more than one show at the same time, how those shows inform each other, and what you're learning through those shows, and how those worlds are created, but there are echoes through the season, and who you're working on stage with and who you're not working on stage with. So the different combinations of actors and scenes is really, really exciting, and something that I think certainly I respond to, and I think the actors have really responded to as well.
Where did the inspiration for the company come from, and what are you all about?
The inspiration for the company is really, our main inspiration is a company called the Schaubühne, which are based in Berlin. They are an example of how most European theatre companies work, which is on an ensemble basis. They have a core ensemble that operate at a home venue, and they're there all year round, and they have this rolling repertoire of plays. So they have these something like 16 productions in repertoire that keep coming back, and they introduce new premieres each season. So that's really the model that we're trying to bring into the UK. It's that ensemble feel, that ensemble company, and that aesthetic to a certain extent of what design elements you bring into the play, and how they're a little bit more free in terms of where productions are set and in what time period they're set, and I think that really works for us in terms of investigating these plays.
Yeah. You've been having such a successful season recently.
We've been really,
Reviews and getting good audiences in. What has that been like?
Oh, we've been really, really blessed. I mean, when we set out to do this is our first rep season. And so when we set out to do it, it was about trying to get the company closer to that ideal that we had of running like a European theatre company. And so that's why we sort of took 6 months off to plan the rep season. You know, we knew we were going to do it in advance, but we weren't doing any other shows in that 6 months, and it was just gearing to this. And given that was the aim, I mean, we've been so blessed. I mean, we couldn't have asked for a better response. People have really responded to the rep idea. I think that there's an audience out there that has really missed that in the UK. There's an audience that have heard about rep, but it was extinct before they were, you know, theatre goers. And so I think the rep idea has really excited people.
Yeah, quite a lot of people don't really understand what rep is, because it is so unusual.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be commonplace. I mean, it absolutely used to be how actors and indeed directors and indeed everybody in the theatre industry sort of train. You know, they learn by doing. But there are still places that do it. I'm not pretending we're the only people that do it, but it's really rare for that to happen. And so, audiences have responded to it. The critics that have come down, you know, we've had interest from national critics for the first time that have responded to the ambition of the project and to the idea of rep. And fortunately, they're really liking what they've seen. So we've been really, really fortunate. We feel really, really lucky, and it's a great vibe backstage.
Well, it's fantastic to see. So how did you go about picking the shows for your rep season? Because I think the plays that you've chosen to do, and one of the things that it says on your website, the faction statement, is that you like to take things and kind of interpret them, perform them with kind of a physical, unusual edge to them.
Well, what we do is start with as blank a canvas as possible. So we're here in a sort of black box studio, and there's nothing in it, really. All of the things that we're doing come from the text, so it's not that we're doing a physical theatre version of these plays. It is a production of these plays that have this sort of physical aesthetic to it. Exactly. And so we'll go through the text sort of line by line by line by line, this process of pretending we haven't sort of read the play before, which we have to sort of trick ourselves into doing, to try and get as much evidence there as possible about the characters, about the world of the play. And we're very, very clear then about what design elements we bring into this blank canvas and what they tell us about the world of the play. The majority of the work that we've done over the last 3 years has been Strindberg and Schiller and Shakespeare predominantly. And so it was sort of a way of looking back on the last 3 years of what we had done to look at those playwrights, but in this new model, this rep model, which is hopefully how we're going to carry on working in the future. I mean, Miss Julie just seemed like a natural fit then for those plays, and also this year's the centenary of Strindberg's death, so it made sense to be doing, you know, arguably his most famous play as a sort of start of a celebration of that centenary, really, or marking that centenary. Twelfth Night was a show that we'd done before, but I wanted to have another look at it. I didn't feel that we'd got it quite right, or more importantly, when we were doing it, we didn't know enough about what the faction was about and about the physical aesthetic that we have, or about us as an ensemble. And I really wanted to do the sort of faction version of Twelfth Night and really work in the way that we've sort of discovered over the last 3 years. And so I wanted to revisit that, and it felt good in terms of all of the ambition of the project to do a play that we knew to some extent. And then you're sort of looking for opportunities for physical work. So you know from what Shakespeare tells you in the scene that they're hiding behind a box tree.
Yeah.
So then you need to create the box tree. And so obviously you could bring in a piece of set, or bring in, you know, a projection, or bring in something to represent the box tree. But what we'll do is to try and use the ensemble to create the box tree. And I think it's, in a way, it's more theatrical to be able to do that. And you know, it's and I guess that's what we're as a company are interested in what's theatrical, rather than trying to be more like television or trying to be more like cinema. they are their own media, and so I think we're more excited by not doing that and seeing what we can do literally with actors in a space with a text to say.
Yeah. So Faction have been lucky enough to have a home in the new Diorama Theatre for your rep season. What's that been like?
They're great. They're absolutely fantastic. They're really, really supportive. Artistic policy behind the building is to support ensembles and to support emerging theatre companies. Rather than sort of advancing themselves, they're much more about what they can do to assist theatre companies, which is an extraordinarily benevolent artistic policy.
That's fantastic.
And the team here are great, and they have a really can-do attitude. They're really engaged in every step of the way. So David and the whole team here, Jemima and Sophie and everybody, really behind us as a company and really behind what we're trying to achieve. And I think the work that they do for all companies, but particularly their associate companies, and we're one of 4 associates here, is great. And you should. I encourage any theatre company to come here, and audiences to check out those associate companies as well, because they do a great job. They really do.
So obviously quite a very successful season. Have you had time to think about what's next for Faction?
We're already starting to think about what's next. There's a summer project that's coming up, and Mary Stewart is coming back to the new Diorama, so we'll be back for 3 weeks in September. We're having to plan earlier, which is a nice problem to have.
Yeah, exactly.
It's nice.
You wouldn't want it to be the other way.
No, absolutely not.
Oh, that's fantastic. It's so exciting to hear about what you guys are doing, and I wish you guys all the best for the future. I really do.
Great.
Thank you for talking with me.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.